Hello and welcome back to Hardwick's Tech World. It's Wednesday, we've reached the middle of the week, it's hump day. I'm Hardwick.
And I'm Bianca. Whew, hump day. That means my battery for the work week has officially hit 50%, and I can already feel the power-saving modes starting to kick in.
If your battery is running low, then I have the perfect topic to start you off. Hold on tight because we're talking about a battery that partially recharges itself while it's discharging. Researchers in Barcelona have built a battery prototype that partially recharges itself while in use. No cables, no charger.
Wait, doesn't that contradict all the laws of physics? Is it a perpetual motion machine? That can't be right. Where does the energy come from?
Very important question. Don't worry, no energy is being created from nothing. The trick is a clever physical effect called bipolar electrochemistry. To put it simply, imagine a small piece of metal floating in the battery fluid, not connected to anything. But when current flows through the fluid, this piece of metal still becomes polarized. It gets a positive and a negative side, all on its own. At these new artificial poles, additional chemical reactions take place that release extra energy that was previously unused in the system.
Okay, that's really clever. And how much of a difference does it make? A little more power, or is it noticeable?
It's noticeable. In the lab experiments, the battery's capacity was increased by up to 4 times. At the same time, the internal resistance drops, which makes the battery much more efficient and extends its lifespan.
That sounds revolutionary. When will I have this in my phone?
We have to hit the brakes on that one. So far, this is just a tiny prototype in a lab. It proves the concept works, but it's still a very long way from being market-ready. We'll likely see it first in small sensors or devices in remote areas. From batteries that store more energy than you'd think, we now move to hard drives that simply store more.
That sounds less like magic now.
No, more like brute force. While the whole world is talking about fast SSDs, the good old mechanical hard drive is upping the ante once again in terms of capacity. Seagate is now selling the first 30-terabyte hard drives.
30 terabytes? That's an absurd amount of data. Who still needs something like that in the age of the cloud aside from maybe the data centers at Google and Amazon?
Exactly them, but not only them. Seagate is primarily targeting the huge market for AI applications, where gigantic amounts of data need to be stored for training models. But it's also interesting for us regular folks. NAS manufacturers like QNAP have already announced support for the drives, so it's becoming more and more interesting for home media service.
And what's the price for all this fun? Probably more than my entire NAS system.
Almost certainly. The price in the US is $600, which becomes a hefty 680 euros in Germany. So it's still a very expensive pleasure for home use. From huge amounts of data that consume a lot of energy, we now come to a new feature that's designed to do the exact opposite: save energy.
Now you have my full attention. Battery life is always a topic.
Microsoft is currently testing a new adaptive power saving mode in Windows 11. It's supposed to extend the battery life of laptops without you having to constantly stare at an annoyingly dark screen.
But we've had a power saving mode forever. What's adaptive and different about this one?
The old mode usually only kicks in at 20% battery and then radically dims everything down. The new adaptive mode is smarter. It constantly analyzes what you're doing. If the system notices you're just idle or writing a text that requires little power, it automatically and almost imperceptibly switches to a power-saving mode. It then pauses background processes like OneDrive syncs or disables transparency effects. As soon as you need more power, it switches itself off again. And most importantly, the screen brightness remains untouched.
That actually sounds great. Is there a catch?
Yes, a small one. It's still in an early test version. And even when it rolls out to everyone, the feature will be disabled by default. So you have to know it exists and turn it on manually in the settings. From an operating system that's trying to become cheaper to run, we now come to a laptop that's trying to become cheaper to buy.
Oh, that sounds like Apple rumors.
Exactly. The rumor mill is buzzing again. Apple is apparently planning a new cheap entry-level MacBook as a successor to the old 12-inch model from back in the day.
Cheap and Apple in the same sentence? That always makes me suspicious. What's it supposed to cost, and how do they plan to lower the price?
The price target's supposedly under $900, maybe even $800 or $900. The trick is said to be that Apple will, for the second time ever, put an iPhone chip in a Mac, probably the A18. It's not as powerful as the M series chips, but it's still faster than the original M1 chip and more than sufficient for everyday tasks like browsing, email, and office work.
But doesn't Apple already have the MacBook Air as its cheap entry-level model? How is the new one supposed to differentiate itself so they don't compete with each other?
It would probably have to be even thinner and more compact than the Air, maybe with a slightly simpler display and perhaps a keyboard that sits almost edge to edge in the chassis like the old 12-inch model. A super portable, sufficiently fast MacBook for students or for simple office work.
That sounds like a potential bestseller if they really set the price that low. When is it supposed to come out?
The rumors point to October or November of this year. It might be the only new Mac we see in 2025, as the new M5 Macs have apparently been pushed to next year. And that's it for today. From magical batteries and data giants to budget laptops from Apple.
I'm fascinated. I wish my brain had an adaptive power-saving mode for Monday mornings and would recharge itself over the weekend.
Who doesn't? If you enjoyed the episode and want more, then you know what to do. Leave us a like, a comment, and most importantly, a subscription.
Exactly. And as a send-off, as always, here's the saying of the day from Hartwig.
Right. The saying of the day, inspired by our first topic, is, some batteries are like a good relationship. Even when you give energy, they somehow recharge you.
Aw, that's almost sweet. On that note, take care and see you next time.
Bye.